Okay, so we're going to look at trying to apply your idea of functions and relations you guys have been working on with the surface area and volume of shapes. Now, I'm giving you an idea of sort of how this all sort of connects. You guys are working with functions and stuff like that, and you had like function of x is equal to x take away 5 or something like that. But with geometry and shapes, you guys have been using formulas for a long time. For example, circumference of a circle is 2 pi r, but you can actually write this as a function of x is equal to 2 pi r. We just call that function of x circumference. So whenever you guys have been doing calculations with different shapes using formulas, you've actually been doing functions. So that's sort of how this all connects together. Now, when we're looking at shapes, usually three-dimensional shapes like this are like collections of smaller shapes put together. For here, we got like a rectangular pyramid. We got the base is a rectangle. We've got the sides are triangles, and they sort of match up across from each other. We're going to find the surface area for this thing, and in order to do that, we are going to sort of break into pieces. There are magical formulas to calculate it all in one shot, but it's a really, really good idea to take it piece by piece to build up the habits and the skills for when we get to larger, more composite shapes and stuff like that. So we're going to find the surface area of this rectangular pyramid. So I'm going to start with the different types of shapes, and I can color code and stuff like that. It's really important to label them with either colors or letters, numbers. There's lots of different things. So I often sometimes even like to label them with shapes. So I'm going to start with the base because that's the easiest part right there. So the base, of course, is just the shape of a rectangle. It's a 9 by 11 rectangle, and I need to find the area of that rectangle. And of course, area of a rectangle is just length times width. So 9 times 11 would be 99 meters squared. So my base is all done. So now I'm going to look at one of my sides. Now I'm going to start with this side right there on the left-hand side there. So I'm just going to draw that. It's 9 in the bottom. I know the height is 13.2, which is perfect because those are the two measurements I need to find the area of a triangle is base times height divided by 2. Now, some people don't realize why the formula for a triangle is base times height divided by 2. It's actually pretty simple. If I just take a rectangle, obviously the area for that rectangle would be base times height. That'd be the base, that'd be the height, same as length times width. But when you actually make a triangle, what you actually do is use half of that area. So there's my triangle in there. And this piece here and this piece here would actually come together and be the same as this triangle right here. So the reason it's base times height divided by 2 is basically it's the area of a rectangle that has been cut in half because you're only using half of it. Okay, so if we go back to our triangle over here, I've got my base times height divided by 2. I've got my 9, I've got my 13.2 labeled as the height, so I can use those to find the area of my triangle. And when I put in those numbers, the 9, 13.2, and multiply divided by 2, I get 59.4 meters squared. Now, this side and the opposite side are the same. So I actually have two of these guys. So I'm going to double that, which gives me 118.8 meters squared, and then that triangle is done. So now I'm going to move on to my next side. I guess the side that's actually facing me here, so to speak. So I'm going to do that one, and I'm going to do the exact same thing. Area is base times height divided by 2. My base is 11, my height is 12.8, so I'll multiply those, divide by 2, and I'll get my area. And that gives me 70.4 meters squared. And just like the other two sides, the blue ones here, we have two of those, so I'm going to double that as well. So I'm going to double that, and I've got 140.8 meters squared. All right, so I've done all my sides, I've done all my parts, and now what I'm going to do is just put them all together. So for the bottom, I had 99. For the two triangle sides here, I had this much, and then I had this much. So I just have to take those three and put them together. So putting those together, round them off a little bit, I will get approximately 359 meters squared for the surface area of the entire thing. So now let's try one that's similar but a little bit different. We're going to bring this guy in over here. We're going to do this guy. Now, this one's a little bit different. First of all, it's a square, which is actually easier. That's no big deal. But this one, instead of having the actual height of the triangle labeled, it's got that far edge here that is actually labeled, which means we actually have to be able to try and find the actual height of the triangle. Now, in order to do that, I'm going to have to use Pythagoras. It's a little right triangle here. There's actually two of them. We're going to use Pythagoras in order to try and find that right triangle. And I'm going to redraw this part right here, just so you can see what's going on. So there's that edge part. Oops. There's the edge part. And then we have a red dotted line that comes down like this. And then there's the bottom part. And this is a little right angle. This part here is 12.3 yards. Now, all the way across was 11 yards. So just this half length would be 5.5 yards. Remember that Pythagoras only works with a right triangle, not just any triangle. So if you remember, Pythagoras is a squared plus b squared equals a c squared, and it's a great way to find missing sides of right triangles. So this would be the long side. There's my hypotenuse, that's c, and this could be a or b. It doesn't make any difference, and this be the a or b, whatever we're missing. So a squared plus b squared is equal to c squared, and I'd be looking for my b value. So there's different ways you can rearrange and do it. It doesn't really matter, but you can put in your values and then you can solve for the b value and find out the actual height of the triangle on the side. So when I calculate it, and I rounded off a couple decimals here and there, I was going along, but when I actually calculate it, I get a b value of around, well, it's right around 11, but I got around 10.9. I rounded off a little bit when I was doing my calculations, but looking for a height of triangle about 10.9. So this is what I want to use for my area calculation. So when you have pyramids like this and you have the measurement over here, the measurement over up here, make sure you check to see if is it the height of the triangle or is it the side edge of the triangle. Because if it's not the height, you're probably going to have to use Pythagoras in order to figure out the actual height of the triangle, and then make sure you only use half of the base, not the entire base. Okay, so now that I have my height, and that's what this is the height of my triangle, now I can do my calculations. So I'm just going to start with my base, with my little square base, because that's easy. So again, area is length times width, so it's 11 times 11, which gives me 121 square yards. Now I can do my triangles, and that's base times height divided by 2. Okay, my base is 11, my height is the 10.9 that I found, so pretty much almost exactly the same. So I'll multiply those guys and then divide by 2. And that gives me about 61 square yards. So I'm just a little rounding off a little bit, but around 60, 61, somewhere around there. Now, the base is a square, so all 4 bases of all 4 triangles on the sides are the same. So I can take that and I can multiply that by 4, because I've got 4 of those triangles, and that'd be 244 square yards for all of my sides. So now I can just take all of my pieces and I can put them together. I got 121 for the bottom. My 4 sides put together are 244. So then my total surface area, if I add this all up, will be around 365 square yards altogether. So again, depending on how you round off and how many decimals you keep, your answer will be a little bit different than mine. It doesn't make that much difference. As long as you're on 365, you are probably good to go. So when you're doing questions like these, organization is really, really important. Writing down the expressions is really, really important, especially when trying to find mistakes and see how things link together. Labeling pieces can be really, really important. Just take it one part at a time, match up different parts, and see if you can link things together.